Welcome to the Simple Minds podcast, where six mates unpack three topics over a new drink each week. Fuck it, just go with that. We'll fix it if it's...
All right, welcome everyone to another episode of the Simple Minds podcast. It's Matt Hanham here, and I'm today's host. I'm joined by...
Hey, glad to see you buying drinks again, mate.
I didn't buy this drink.
Oh, fucking...
It was a gift from me.
And I shall tell you why shortly. But before we go there, Mr. Conye, instead of going left, let's go the other way.
Well,
do you know which way that is? Oh, right.
You're going right.
We're going right.
Okay.
Everybody's here today.
Marco?
Hello, everybody.
That's Marco on fast forward.
Mr. JB?
What's up?
Mr. Hayto?
Hey.
And Mr. Duncan?
Hey, guys.
And we're joined by a special guest today, Mr. Conye.
Conye West.
You know.
So, welcome
great.
everybody. It looks like it's set to be an interesting episode.
The wild, wild west, I think.
So I'm hosting it obviously on Drink today, and it starts with a little story. Earlier this week, I was referred to have a chat. I just got to meet some very lovely and interesting people from a vineyard down in Denmark called the Lake House. And so shout out to, as Conrad would do, shout out to Greg Capelli and Leanne Rogers, who I met and had an amazing chat with. And I had a great conversation with these guys, and said, you know what, I'm going to grab one of your wines and use it on the Simple Minds. Only to realise a few days later that, hang on, I'm pretty sure someone just gave me a gift of one of their wines, and I already had it sitting literally in the podcast room.
So there should be another bottle floating around somewhere then.
So that's this one.
That's the gift one, but didn't you get one from down there?
No, I wasn't there.
Oh.
I met them. I had a good chat with them. I was in Perth. It's about 4 hours drive for anyone that doesn't know where Denmark might be, south. So, yeah, look, I was going to source a couple of bottles and bring them in, but apparently I already had one here. So, Michael Duncan, thank you very much for the gift.
Have you been down there, Michael?
And
No, I got that through Vino Mofo, I think, actually.
Oh, no one's been down
go.
there. We should all go down there.
We should?
We should host an episode from down there.
We should
Do they want to
definitely
have
do
us?
that. So, look, lovely people, and I thought let's take this opportunity to try their wine. So we've got a 2006 SSB, which I think it's called it's a premium range, and I think it's a postcard collection. Sorry if I butchered that, but I believe that's what we're drinking. But look, great southern wines. Interesting to me. I do want to get down there soon because my dad was born down in Albany, which is pretty close to there, and it's a place that I don't get to. Down in the deep south, the great southern region too often, and I'd like to spend some more time. So let's pass out these drinks and give it a shot.
Have we got some sort of tasting notes that Marco's got in front of him in that kid's book in front of him?
Pretty much, is it?
Yes.
Hungry Cattle.
In kids book form. It's a cool book that I came across in one of Tim Ferriss's podcasts when he was interviewing a guy called Richard Betts, who's a crazy talented sommelier. And he put together a scratch and sniff guide to becoming a wine expert.
Oh, so here we go.
And it's a great, it's a really cool book. And it's where that tip that I'd said a while back of starting with fruit, earth, and wood, comes from. And in the pages, it's got, you open it up and there's a couple of pages of fruit, and you can scratch at different fruits as you're.
So he's effectively trying to teach us, right, like a child.
Yeah.
Is that what the theory behind
absolutely.
it? Yeah, it looks cool.
Yeah, and when so here it's got, you start with fruit, and it's got all of these different pictures of, apples, strawberries, blueberries, bananas. You can scratch at a couple of them, and as you're tasting your wine, you can smell each different fruit and start seeing what sort of fruits you can pick out. Same with the earth and the wood, and it's just a cool way of growing your ability to.
So you've actually used
describe this? Yeah, I've used it. I mean, and I thought I'd bring it in. This is going to be my little gift I leave in here for when I go in like 3 episodes' time. And you won't have anyone to hassle you about what are you trying.
Well, now we have to use this at the right time.
Rather than not having someone to hassle us, we all probably need to get educated a little more. Or speaking for myself in particular, I need to learn, because you're right, Marco. We stand there and go, hey, yeah, it smells fruity. Excellent. Maybe we should understand what we're doing a little bit more. So if anyone wants to give us a crash course beyond the book, you're welcome to join us. You're welcome to join us.
I'm trying to get
So what
these
do we
guys
think?
to have us down there.
Hey?
Get these guys to have us down there.
I'll have us down there.
Anyway, cheers, guys. Happy
Cheers.
Friday.
Cheers.
Before Conrad goes off on a rant. Oh, yeah, and
Mike's on his,
Dunk is on Dry July, so
July.
happy Dry July, Dunk.
This water is beautiful.
The irony in the fact that this bottle came from you and you're dry Julying it wasn't lost.
Oh, it's spectacular.
I think it tastes better in July, actually.
Yeah,
It's
the
amazing.
best one, yeah.
It's the peak time for it. It was made to be open on this day.
Now, but well done to everybody that's battling through Dry July. If it is a battle for you,
I don't want
that's,
to smell.
An early battle.
Can I have a scratch and sniff?
it is an early battle. Or how many days
We
are we
can
into it?
tantalise your
You can have a
olfactory
scratch and
system.
sniff, Mike.
It's one of my favourite words in the world, olfactory.
Conrad.
A word?
Conrad.
Yeah, olfactory.
When was the last time you scratched and sniffed?
No comment.
Don't give
Just
him,
asking.
Don't give him that feel. Anyone? Any comments on the wine before we?
Yeah, it's great. It's actually really, really nice.
Yeah, it is.
It is.
Surprisingly, I didn't know Denmark do SSBs.
It's great.
Now you do.
Now you do. Now you could go down there.
And now we're learning.
No, I want them to bring us down there. Sponsor an episode.
Okay, mate. Let's move on.
All right.
Just because Marco's not going to be here for 6 months.
So we'll quickly shift you
Long
off the mic, Conrad, and head into our first topic. Michael.
Me. I've not had a glass of wine whether. Okay. I've heard that the video I shared again was slightly boring, but obviously I didn't think it was. It had good graphics.
I don't know how you make Nietzsche exciting, to tell the truth, but it is good topic.
The graphics were really good, actually. If you watched it,
it was from.
I just listened to it.
Had good graphics.
I just listened to it. I didn't watch it.
I just want some tonal range.
You know what?
That's all. Is that too much to ask? Like, you've shared last two videos with like no tone. It was literally, hello, my name is Travis.
No, that had
That
to.
But the guy that narrates that video has actually been on the Tim Ferriss podcast.
Oh, okay.
I can't remember the guy's name, but he runs a YouTube channel called The School of Life, which talks philosophy.
Is that in London?
London, yeah,
Yeah,
London-based
cool.
guy. The musician, he's into classical music, and he's
Yeah.
a really interesting guy. Well, maybe in the
It's
show
a
notes.
physical school.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. Really interesting guy, talks about life. The video I have, actually Nietzsche, who we've talked about before in this podcast, with the child camel lion scenario and suffering and all that sort of stuff, is one 19th century philosopher, German philosopher, and delves deep on human emotion. And this one, envy, caught my eye because I was looking at, what are we going to
You
talk
love
about?
this stuff, mate.
I find it really interesting because a lot of people don't, and this is what this video is about. A lot of people aren't honest with themselves about feelings that they have, emotions they have, about what sort of not drives them deeply, but what is in you as a person. They shy away from the negative side or the bad side and don't sort of face it, which I think going by this video is something we need to kind of do. I think we may be going to do in this episode slice in the audio, am I right in saying, for this video during it?
Let's do
Well, it's 6 minutes, right?
Yeah, so just let's be quiet for 6 minutes.
We're going to listen to it right now.
Excellent.
In dark, honest moments, we are liable to recognize, with considerable agony, that there is so much missing from our lives. We've been unable to get quite the career we wanted. Our partners may leave us largely unfulfilled. We may have made some catastrophic mistakes that can never be corrected. Our appearance might be shameful and in decline. And there is, correspondingly, so much that we envy. No philosopher has ever taken envy more seriously than Friedrich Nietzsche. The 19th century German philosopher described it as the most important emotion at work in individual and collective life. In his writings, he referred to it with a slightly unusual word, the French term ressentiment, which places emphasis on the humiliation we experience in the face of what we desire but cannot have. In Nietzsche's book on the genealogy of morality, published in 1887, the philosopher presents us with a groundbreaking diagnosis of envy. He opens with a speculative history of how our ideas of good and evil developed, and the crucial role of envy therein. In ancient times, Nietzsche argued, What counted as negative or positive was defined in a rather direct and simple way by the powerful. Those who held military, financial, and political authority got to decide what sort of actions and behaviours would be thought admirable. Because of the aristocrats' attachments and tastes, good came to be synonymous with aristocratic values like winning, making money, being confidently sexual, knowing a lot, and securing fame. Assured of their own virtue, the powerful, in ancient times, slept soundly. But the aristocracy's reign did not go unchallenged. There were too many weak, powerless, and downtrodden people at large, a mass of men and women whom Nietzsche alternately called the slaves, the plebeians, or simply the herd. These people increasingly wanted to avenge themselves against the powerful. At the same time, they lacked any practical means of doing so, having no money or political leverage. Then they hit on an idea of genius. They would fight back against the rich and the strong with the weapon of guilt. They couldn't attack the powerful physically, but they could leave them unable to sleep well at night. They would ruin them via their consciences. A central weapon in this revenge attack was, for Nietzsche, the ideology we know today as Christianity. Christianity was, for the philosopher, a brilliant, devilish instrument of revenge, dreamt up by the weak to make the strong feel guilty for their advantages. It was Christianity's strategy to relabel as bad everything once associated with aristocratic values, and to anoint with the term good everything with which the herd was identified. So, in the new Christian moral scheme, having no money was relabeled noble poverty. Having no education was praised as sincerity. Lacking sex was hailed as chastity. And, as Nietzsche put it, not being able to take revenge turned into forgiveness. Envious for what they couldn't have, Christians made the powerful feel untenably guilty and insisted that the kingdom of God belonged to the weak, the meek, the chaste, the poor, and the persecuted. Nietzsche almost admired the audacity of this move, but at the same time he held it to be responsible for an appalling bad faith and the degradation of European civilization. In a cantankerous tone he wrote that the man of ressentiment is neither upright nor naive, nor honest and straight with himself. His soul squints, his mind loves dark corners, secret paths, and back doors. For Nietzsche, the psychological health of a person or society depends on being able to resist denigrating what one wants but can't have. It involves resisting the urge to deny the gaps in one's life for the sake of inner convenience. It is for Nietzsche always better to say what one wishes to be and have rather than to twist one's entire personality to avoid discomfort. We must, for the philosopher, be strong enough to face and stay honest about our own misfortunes. Though Nietzsche spent a lot of time studying Christianity, he understood that the desire to redraw values on the basis of repressed envy was a maneuver that could appear under many guises. His attacks may seem harsh and potentially even an absurd defense of a boorish upper-class set of values, but it's important to remember that Nietzsche himself was no aristocrat. He lacked money, sex, an audience, friends, but he was committed to honesty with himself, and so didn't shirk away from admitting that in certain moods he would dearly have wished to be more heroic, fulfilled, and brave, yet lacked the talent to be so. Nietzsche's message is that one of the most mature acts we are capable of is to admit to the strength of our envy and the scale of our regret, without falling prey to defensive philosophies of denial, in all their many and ingenious disguises.
Welcome back. Hopefully you enjoyed it more than Travis did, and it didn't. It's only 6 minutes long, and it's just...
Wake up, Jeff.
It's a really interesting topic, envy, I think, anyway, and it's something we all have in our lives, no matter what anybody says. you have been envious of something or somebody at some stage.
Cue Conye West saying that he doesn't envy anyone.
Exactly.
Conrad?
I'm not going to say that. But I wasn't envious about that Universal shirt. I actually found that funny.
Good. Let's ignore that.
I mean, obviously during the video he talks a lot about history and Christianity and that sort of thing, but I really want to focus on just the emotion of envy and what Nietzsche thought about it and what you guys think about what Nietzsche thought about it. Nietzsche thought envy as a sort of confused but important signal from our deeper selves about what we really want. You know, seeing things in other people. But he didn't see envy as a negative emotion at all. He saw it as a negative emotion, but saw that you can harness it to try and... Well, there's either two ways you can look at envy. You can look at somebody and say, I want to be like them, and use that as a positive to sort of push yourself forward or propel yourself forward into a better place. Or if you go down the other way, you're going into a really deep, dark hole of bitter resentment and hate, and which is... You know, in our society just now, which I think replicates what was in the video, you know, talking about the aristocracy and, you know, Roman empires and whatever.
The Catholic Church, Christianity.
The Catholic. Well,
My God, that was.
What did you think about that, Conrad? That part.
Yeah, I've done a lot of reading on it, and I found that part really interesting in the succinctness and how he put it together. I'm actually going to play this to my mother tomorrow morning, so I might not be here tomorrow next Friday. But the construct of Christianity based around how they've used these things to control people.
Yep.
Phenomenal.
Oh, definitely, yeah. And I'd never really looked at it at the fact of trying to control like the powerful.
Yeah.
So it was a really interesting and eye-opening sort of view on that point. But it talks about hierarchy. I mean, the human society is...
It's the crayfish again, mate.
It is the crayfish, yeah. And one episode we must talk about the crayfish, Conrad. But
I'd love to bring some crayfish in.
Humans are different, yeah? We're not all the same. We don't live in an egalitarian society where everybody is equal, we all have equal power, we all have equal say in everything. You know, we do live in a hierarchical society. I think that sounded right. And I think Nietzsche... Obviously, people looking up at somebody that's powerful with envy can either, as I said, go down into that deep dark hole and let's get back to what I was actually saying. I was talking about society now and fame, money, you know, film stars, movie, you know, like status, yeah, powerful, you know, and we have that sort of same feel just now. And I think in society just now, there's that kind of uprising as well from the kind of maybe the social justice warrior types, or, you know, everybody must be equal, you know, equal pay for men, women, you know, everything. Everybody has to be on this same level, which I think is a place that we can never get to because we are fundamentally different, as be it gender, be it height, be it strength, be it intellect. So I think, I don't know, you can use, and what Nietzsche is saying is, you know, be honest with yourself. And it's about truth. It's about truth in envy. Truth in what you are as a human. When you see somebody and you feel that little twang of, geez, that person's better looking than me, or they must have more money. Not to use that as some way to go down into a deep, dark hole, but to use it to improve yourself. Is that what you guys got from it? Did you guys get that feeling, or have felt that yourself, and have used envy as a tool to maybe... I think
we'd be lying if anyone hasn't had experienced envy.
Oh, mate, completely.
As much as it'd be honourable to say you don't.
Let me just keep going. Conrad, let me find this bit I was about to
I'm just mindful of sharing mic time.
yeah, definitely.
I invite other comments from the crowd.
Yeah, everybody's keeping very quiet. Was I too monotone for you there?
No,
Travis?
we just don't. I'm just wanting to, I guess, see where you're going with it and look, what kind of response you're looking for from us. So let's finish it off.
Well, just a response on... I've asked the question. What are your thoughts on envy itself? Have you felt it? Have you used it? Have you gone into a deep, dark hole yourself?
Are you envious right now of anything, Matt Hanham?
Always. I think we always are. I think there's always an element of it.
No, I don't think we always are.
Oh, shit. Come on, man.
I don't know, come on.
No,
I don't think we're always envious.
There's always something.
Okay, no, Trevor, are you envious right now?
Hang on. We walked into the room today, Conrad, and you just told us about this day you've had and how you're back to back everywhere and you're doing all this stuff.
Only because I want to fall asleep right now. Oh, I might fall asleep.
Because you want to continue to move forward towards what your goal is.
Yeah,
And
but
if there's
that
someone else,
doesn't make me envious, bro.
well, someone out there is closer to your goal than you are.
Fuck, no one is closer to my fucking goal. It's my fucking goal, mate. No, and I'm not envious of anyone. I don't give a shit.
Oh, no. So you're suddenly saying, you just said everybody is envious.
No, not about today. I'm not envious about what I've done today about fucking anything. I'm passionate.
Here's the part I was going to talk about. Okay. We're generally taught that envy as a feeling is something to be ashamed of, that you shouldn't
For
feel
sure,
it,
exactly
yeah?
right.
But this seems to be
But it can be used as a driver.
It certainly can, yes. So we hide from ourselves and others, so much so that there are people who will sometimes say with all sincerity that they don't envy anyone, which is a complete lie.
No, okay.
Because it's logically impossible, insisted Nietzsche.
So context, I wasn't talking about me never being envious.
Yep.
My day today wasn't about fucking envy.
Yeah.
I'm just saying it's always got to be there a little bit. I use
So what are you
it.
envious about right now? I mean,
Just everything. Look, I use it as fuel. So I agree with that. I use it as fuel. And if that tank was empty, then I would not be doing what I'm doing most of the time. So it's always. I'm not saying I sit there and think about these things that I don't have all the time, but I'm doing the work towards what I want to achieve. No one's achieved exactly what I want to achieve, to your point, but that it is a driver. And if the tank's empty, then what are you going to do? So I feel like it's always a part or an element of maybe not the consuming emotion that we're feeling, but it's always a part of us and our everyday lives.
thank you.
What do you mean, thank you?
Yeah, answer the
you
question.
were rebutting me. That was the exact...
No, you were poking the bear, bro.
Poking the bear, please.
But no, Travis, you probably the nearest to fucking nature here.
And just for context, he's not naked.
No, he just hugs trees for a living. No, I would envy. How does it sit with you? I'd really be interested how you take envy.
It's something that I've never really reflected on too much.
Because he's never envious, this kid.
But no, it's something that I try not to do on a regular basis. That's one thing. I don't know.
So can I put you on the spot?
I don't really have an opinion, to be honest. Like,
Can I put you on the spot? Can I put some context for you? I want you to answer.
Oh, this is good. I know what this is going to be. So go. Yeah, just give me.
Are you envious?
Okay, Dr. Phil.
Are you envious of anybody else at the current basketball club that you're at for the minutes they get ahead of you?
I'd say I'm envious.
Answer
I'd
the
say
question. Would you like their minutes?
Absolutely.
Is that not envy?
There's envy in there.
Is
Now,
that wanting
no,
something?
I'm not worried about the negative on it, but
Put
as
your
what Matt
mouth
just
in the
said.
microphone.
But I think
That's
this
what Matt just said.
This is exactly what we're talking about. Envy doesn't need to be looked upon as
Exactly.
something to be ashamed of.
Exactly.
Something to.
But did you see where he went with it?
Of course, he went straight down to being ashamed of. I'm not envious of.
I know.
Sort of,
Yeah, I wouldn't say it's a negative
Honestly,
thing that
this-
I want to play more.
Of course you fucking do.
No, I'm not saying it's a bad thing.
It's not negative.
No.
I'm not saying it's a negative because why would you be there in the first place?
No,
if you're not wanting to play more.
But your immediate response was, I'm not envious.
No, but I don't look at my teammates and go, Matt, I'm really envy of you because you're playing more than me. I go, you know what? You're a better player than me right now, and that's why you're getting more minutes. But
why
I'm
can't
working.
you?
I'm
But why
working.
can't you?
I'm working to be a better player than you.
But constructively, why can't you?
So I don't look at him and go, because that's you, I'm envious of you and want to be in that position. Yeah, you use that as fuel because he's there.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
I think what Nietzsche's saying is you've got to be honest with yourself.
So yeah, that's what I was trying to get to. So if in the honest phase, why can't it drive you?
Absolutely, it can drive you.
So if someone asks you, are you envious of your teammates that are playing more minutes ahead of you? Why can't I say, yeah, fuck oath I am, and I'm going to get myself there, or I'm going to switch myself on, or I'm going to go and get some of those minutes?
So then why is that not present at all times?
Well, he didn't go there.
I don't see it as envy, personally.
Well, so this is where we're going to go with being honest with your emotions.
Yeah.
Well,
What do you see it as? Sorry, Mike. If you
quickly before I'll let you the dictionary definition of envy as a verb. Desire to have a quality, possession, or other desirable thing belonging to someone else.
Yeah.
So it doesn't go into a big negative.
No, it's not negative.
It's not.
I think you might just not like the word yourself.
Envy. I think that's and it's been drilled into us through Christianity, through modern society, that envy is a bad thing. Mm-hmm. And this is what we're talking about. Nietzsche used it as a powerful emotion. That if you harness correctly, you can propel yourself forward.
For sure, without a doubt. I mean, and the reason why we have role models is because we are envious of what they've created or or the status they've achieved, right?
Yeah.
And if we want to go down that path and replicate what they have done, we have to at least honour what they've done first.
And as I said right at the beginning, it's about being honest with yourself about dark emotions that you have or emotions that you have.
But is this dark?
Exactly. So I've gone down the same path of saying it's a dark emotion. But
And the term about negative emotion, see, I don't buy that.
Yeah, but I guess that comes back to the whole definitions which we've had arguments about before. I'd go with, I've never considered envy, but I've definitely been envious at plenty of occasions. And when you read the definition, you are envious,
Yeah.
Trav.
Yeah.
When you look at that, but I'd be like with you, it's like,
Yeah, Trav.
yeah.
And when you don't honour the word, you don't honour the emotion, then how can you use it?
I'm not saying like I'm sitting there going, oh, fuck,
No, no.
you know, like this. You know, I understand
But
my
that's
role
like-
in the team.
I think
and
that's
I'm
the point of what's interesting about this is like, you know,
in a way, you have harnessed it properly. You're not using it to go into
He's
into
in
a
the
deep-
process of harnessing it, aren't you, Travis?
He's not admitting
Yes.
to the
Mate, I wouldn't-
emotion.
So have we gotten to the point where we're agreeing that there's positive and negative envy?
I don't think
Well,
envy
no,
Are we
it's
exists
just
in envy.
at?
No,
Are we
there's-
just at the fact that there's envy and
Envy is just envy.
okay?
But it can become
But it's
something.
what you do with it, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
So how do you differentiate between?
I think your
Good
action,
envy
your action
and-
is what differentiates.
Yep. So what about your actions?
So if you allow it to consume you and it to manifest probably in a bad way within inside you,
but what's bad?
where you take no action, you just be envious and not taking the action towards
Okay.
rectifying.
Yeah.
I think that to me is something that you're envious of something, but you're not prepared to do the work to get what they have. So why be envious?
and then you kind of whinge, bitch, complain,
Yeah.
Well, that's-
or bring on negative habits, or
So that's one line in there, and I might have just this might not be word for word, but he mentioned that psychological health depends on resisting the urge to criticise what we want but can't have.
Yes.
Yep. Yep.
So that I found that interesting and jotted that down because
That's
people
sorry,
say
say-
Say that again for me.
you resist the urge. You need to your psychological health depends on resisting the urge to criticise what we want but can't have.
Yep.
So if someone's got that thing that deep down you want, often you see us will criticise them or put them down, like whether that's someone with status or whatever that might look like, and our health psychologically does depend on resisting that urge and not being negative towards the thing that you want.
it's kind of that, like when someone else is succeeding and other people try to bring down
That's
the
right.
success.
It's all
It's
right?
one of the
Yeah.
biggest issues in society
Yeah,
today.
it's
Yeah.
huge. And that was in the middle of that
that's right.
video. That was almost.
Well, the funny thing with the video is like nothing's really changed over thousands of years. Once again,
Yeah. And this is society as a
What do we
whole,
do
there's
once
a
again?
hierarchy in society. There's always going to be somebody that's more powerful,
Yeah.
better looking, whatever.
I get
apart
looks-
from
I get the
myself,
looks envy a
obviously,
lot.
but-
That's where I was going though. So
For those that can't see me.
in trying to differentiate between good and bad envy, I guess.
Yeah. And it's
always a choice,
That's
right?
in here
Maybe-
thing. That's really
yeah.
deep in the heart.
Being
Like,
aware
So
that
I
envy
think,
is present.
Yeah, so I think it's better to consider it as something that, if it's positive, it drives action.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Well,
then
there
obviously
can
the
be
action.
other action though. There can be other action which can be an uprising or violence or
Exactly. So there could be negative action.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, as long as the action you take doesn't take away from others, then it's positive. But that doesn't make sense because, say, Trav wants more minutes. It's an easy example. Then someone's got to lose minutes for that.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
then,
so
oh, no,
But
it's
that,
so
that brings
fucked
it
up.
back.
But then you
That,
get-
but that brings it back down to what I was journaling on during the week. That for success to be there, someone generally has to fail, and
I suspect-
both have to exist.
I suspect this is going to tie into the next topic really strongly as well.
Just a little.
So
They all do. So on that, shall we move, or are you ready to
I just
drop
wanted
something
to
else?
Say one thing here. This is from I found a really good paper on, I think it was the Philosopher's Mail website about Nietzsche, about envy.
You read a lot of this stuff, mate. Do you ever do any work?
I do this week. Yeah, Victor's keeping me accountable.
Is it another set of eyes on
great
it?
this week.
That is the richest comment coming from you, Conrad.
Oh, here we go.
Oh, lucky we're about to start filming this. The rest of this.
We should define what we classify as work, I guess.
We might need this for evidence.
And this is close to what you were talking about,
What?
Matt, the bit that you picked up from the video. Nietzsche thought of envy as a confused but important signal from our deeper selves about what we really want.
It's one of the keys.
Yeah.
It is one of the keys, right? Because exactly the reaction that I thought I would get was exactly what I wanted to see, and that we go backwards. And most of the time, we go backwards at a rate, not in a defence mode, when it's
The
should
reaction
be embraced.
from Travis.
Yeah.
So,
It should be
okay,
embraced.
sorry. Show me an example of going forwards in that situation then.
I'm envious of the time you're getting because I know that I really, really want to contribute the way that you're contributing to the team, and I'm going to use that to motivate myself to go after your minutes.
Be it working hard.
The biggest thing.
Is that fluent enough, Trav? You want me to verbatim that for you?
No, I was genuinely asking. I just wanted to.
I generally answered it for you.
The biggest thing I got from the there's a lot of fire going on today. The biggest thing I got
Charged.
was own your goals
Yes.
Yep.
and
fucking own them to the essence.
But be proud of I really want that. And if it's something that someone has, it doesn't necessarily have to be negative that you want what they have. That,
No,
But
they should be honoured. They should be honoured that you put them at that level. That then they should respect what they
But
already
it's not
have.
about them. It's not.
No, it's not about
no,
that.
but
But
they
they can
could
use
be.
that as their
They
tool
could use it.
because complacency in them will crack open opportunity for him.
Like, I mean, there's probably envy with yourself, Matt, with Gary V, yeah?
Nah, I think we're at a pretty close to the same level.
But you know, but I mean, you can,
Absolutely,
you
of
can use
course.
that completely to fuel your fire.
Absolutely, and I do.
100%. Yeah.
What I like towards the end of the video though was like there's an element of self-awareness and acceptance that goes with it. It refers to like you can be envious about that, and it's kind of like even on Gary V's train he talks about a lot of like he could never play in the Jets, so he's like fuck you, I'm gonna own the Jets. I mean that's envy, right? I mean that's pure envy that's driving his whole thing.
It was status, right? He couldn't get the playing status.
But he had
so I'm gonna own it.
self-awareness.
Yeah.
He was envy to play, and he
Yeah.
wanted to play, but he obviously was self-aware enough, and so it's kind of acknowledging that, which I thought was interesting. Of like, never looked at envy in that way.
Yeah.
So it's a tool of
it was really cool. Never really sat down to think too much about envy.
But there's so many
me
tools
neither.
like that
No, there
that
is.
we've got access
And
to.
a lot of them you'll find are kind of what we would define as negative emotions.
Well, it's what the Christianity calls virtues, right? Or what are they? What's that? 7 mortal sins. If it was virtue.
Yeah,
being
envy
of
is
them.
one of them.
Yeah.
As well, right?
That Will Smith movie, 7, where we go through
7
all those
pounds.
£7.
£7. Yeah, when they go through those 7 sins.
Oh, I've not seen
So if you look at that, and if you take the path on any one of those, you'll get the same point.
Cool.
Just finishing off, Nietzsche simply insisted that we must become conscious of our true potential, put up a heroic fight to honour it, and only then mourn failure with solemn frankness and dignified honesty. So give it everything, the heroic fight to get what you want, and if it doesn't happen, if you don't become a 6'6" basketballer because you've really tried.
Going by the team.
I tried.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm
Go
still
by
waiting
the
for
team.
puberty. It will come.
You can create it the different way.
This is what I like about topics like this, is that emotions come up. I like it. It gets a good conversation going, I think.
Doug, I love it when you bring
I
topics to
think-
the table because it's just genuinely stuff that I never consider.
Yeah.
It's really cool.
You don't go deep on like hours and hours of YouTube watching this stuff late at night. 'Cause
No, I prefer more dynamic
Mike does.
range in my videos.
Jordan
Beat me to
Peterson.
it.
I'd get lost in my own head somewhere. And
No,
on that
but that's
note,
cool. Thanks,
We're
Doug.
going to fire
you.
off to the next
Thanks,
topic. This person doesn't get very much mic time generally, so just wanted to make sure they had an opportunity to speak up. Loud and proud, Mr.
Over to you, Justin.
Mr. Actually, no. We're going to switch to our special guest, Mr. Conye.
Okay, so I circulated some content. Hopefully you guys have all watched it. I haven't checked in with you guys yet. Some of you might have seen it before. Trav, I'm not sure whether you've seen it before.
I've seen it.
You'd seen it, Marco? Mm-hmm. So it's usually something I use with most people that I have some great conversations with because it's a piece of content that touches on what you touched on, Mike, in relation to what you're using to fuel your fire. Now, Michael Jordan is arguably considered to be the greatest player of all time when it comes to basketball. Some might argue that with LeBron James or whatever the case might well be. It's something that, you know, for me as a Los Angeles Lakers fan, it's taken me a while to accept Jordan's status, but you can't argue with what Jordan has achieved. And I came across his Hall of Fame speech probably a few years after he got inducted, and to me, it's been one of the most interesting pieces of content to listen to when you talk about humility. That's right. So, hey.
Okay. I didn't get humility from.
Well, I got humility, and I will ask you what you got. I got humility from it because it takes a very humble man to go through. Well, he went through life. He took people on a journey. He went through from his family into his high school, into his college, into his pro years. He went about people close to him and about people far from him, and how they impacted his life, and how they gave him the fuel for his fire that made him the greatest player of all time.
Did you have we're going to cut in a section of it. Did you have a particular section that you'd picked?
The section that I wanted to share with people, I mean, it's probably one of the funniest sections, but it involved him talking about Pat Riley, who was in the crowd, and he references, so what Michael did, apparently the year before his induction, the ticket prices were $200 a seat to the Hall of Fame event. The year that Jordan got inducted, they raised it to $1,000 a seat. Now, what Michael did was everybody that had impacted his life, he bought tickets for and put in the crowd. Okay, well, his family, his basketball, his mates, and he had the guy that was chosen ahead of him on this high school team where he got cut for. He had he's got his university college coach there. He had Pat Riley in the crowd because he wanted to reference Pat Riley. So everybody that got referenced in his speech were all in this crowd, but also the extended teammates and the like. So he bought, I think the number was about 200 tickets to have people there to listen to this. So in referencing Pat Riley, the part was, and it was quite funny because he was talking about Pat being, at that stage, was the general manager of the New York Knicks, and on the New York Knicks was Charles Oakley, who was one of Michael Jordan's best mates. And Pat had that much of a hatred whilst he was in the game for someone like Michael, that he would stop Michael and Charles Oakley having lunch together. And it was interesting to see Charles Oakley's expression and Pat Riley's expression when Michael just said, well, all that did was just fuel my fire. You know, and he came out and had some of his best games against New York because that's what Pat challenged him to do by Pat's actions. Yeah? So it's interesting to see what people use to define themselves, which other people might be taking as negatives. And I think a few weeks back we talked about Steve Jobs and the moment that he left or he got sacked out of Apple to what he did then to let himself come back. What we normal people probably look at as negatives can become massive positives if it's chosen to be used that way.
All right, yeah? Let's switch. Let's put on that bit of audio now.
Yeah, sure. It's a bit funny, but I mean, I think it just synopsises exactly what he used as fuel.
Pat Riley. I mean, you and I, we go way back. I still remember in Hawaii. You remember in Hawaii where you and I was coming in, you were, I guess, leaving, and you decided to stay a couple extra days, but you were in my suite, and they came and they told you had to get out of my suite. And you slid a note underneath my door, although you had to move, you did move. You slid a note saying, I enjoyed the competition, congratulations, but we will meet again. And I take the heart in that because I think, in all honesty, you are just as competitive as I am, you know, even from a coaching standpoint. And you've challenged me every time I played the Knicks, the Heat. And I don't think you were with the Lakers, but anytime I played against you, you had Jordan Stoppers on your team. You had John Starks, who I loved. You even had my friend Charles Oakley saying we can't go to lunch, we can't go to dinner because Pat doesn't believe in fraternizing between the two of us. And this guy hit me harder than anybody else in the league, and he was my best friend. Patrick Ewing, we had the same age, we came out the same time, but we couldn't go to lunch. Why is this? You think I'm gonna play against Patrick any different than I play against anybody else? No. And then you had your little guy who was on your staff who became the Knicks coach after you, Jeff Van Gundy. He said, I con the players, I befriended them, and then I attack them on the basketball court. Where did that come from? I just so happen to be a friendly guy. I get along with everybody, but at the same time, when the light comes on, I'm as competitive as anybody you know.
So, gentlemen, my question to you, so I took humility out of that, because to learn what Jordan learned, I believe you need to be a very humble person. Okay, so that's how I looked at it. And that piece is a very humble piece for him to, well, a very humble part of his life for him to share what he shared.
But to me, this literally does dig back into our first conversation. Most of that, or a big chunk of that speech, was him using envy as a positive power to fuel him continuing his career. Like, he basically just person after person after person. And they didn't know that I was measuring up against them, but I was measuring up against them. Then the next one, then the next one. And literally, it was just using that as fuel over and over and over again to get to where he wanted to go.
The face on the bloke that got chosen ahead of him on his high school basketball team, he knew the piss take, right? He knew why he was there. He's the guy that got Jordan cut. And he's such a famous guy because of that reason. What the fuck has he achieved in his life?
Well, who knows? Have you looked him up?
I have. Nothing. I can't find anything. He's referenced as the bloke that got chosen ahead of Jordan. That's it.
What did you think about the comment he made about organisations don't win championships, but great players like him do?
Travis? You're a player right now. I mean...
On the court.
Yeah. In life.
Apparently, no. Organisations don't win championships. Great players like him do.
He was saying the organisation didn't have the flu, or the organisation didn't roll an ankle.
Coming from both sides of the spectrum here, I've been within the organisation and as a player, and I call bullshit a little bit on it, only because it's a combination of both. Yes, the players have to play, but the organisation has to give them the best possible. So it's a, I don't want to use an analogy of team effort, but it really is. It was
a massive dig at Jerry Krause. That's what it was.
Yeah, that's what it is.
I think Jerry Krause was the only bloke that wasn't in that crowd.
And that's where it really surprised me you said about humility, because I thought during that whole speech there was a complete lack of humility. that he was just making jibes and and who knows, or in jest or whatever, and ha ha ha. But it's like, nah, he was telling them what he used.
So the four of us that have spoken about this to this point are all more or less basketball heads, some way, shape, or form, or some level. How about the two that aren't?
Justin
is.
Yeah,
no, but you weren't growing up, right?
No, not growing up.
So what did you two take from that? I mean, what did you know about Jordan? I mean, I literally just pulled out the Ultimate Jordan DVD set that's sitting on my shelf in the podcast room, because when I've used that when I've been going through tough times, when I had to work late at night, I've thrown those games on, the flu game, the other things to fuel me. I've used that and watched it on the not the old school square tape sitting on your TV. But for two guys that haven't sort of had basketball as a big part of their life, what did you take from it?
Who wants to go first? Mark can go.
No, that's all right.
Passing the ball between them.
Yeah, pass. I think, well, this is the second time I've watched it. I think, Conrad, you've shared this video with me before. What I took out of it, there are elements of humility. I don't know about the whole speech. Okay. I think there are some kind of fuck you moments. I
thought there was thank you moments.
I think there were, but I think there was... I don't know.
Can you give me one? Well, you took as fuck you, just in case I missed it?
Well, talking about the high prices as well, that was a little bit like...
Well, that's a job at him and the organisation, though.
Yeah, but he did it twice as well.
He said it twice. Didn't need to say it.
Yeah, there are a couple jabs, but there are definitely humility in the moments of when he referenced back to getting cut and really was openly sharing a bit of vulnerability around that and opening up around how and admitting that he used these things for fuel, where someone who would have had, I guess, too much of an ego would admit that was the case. He just would have said, I'm the fucking greatest and I worked harder than you guys, and that was all. But he did admit the fact that these things, and the time that I watched it, I think for the first time, it really helped me get through and looking at the negatives for the positive. Yep. And it was really reinforced the saying of everything's happening for you, not to you. Yeah. And if you look back at Jordan's story through that, at the time it wouldn't feel like that, but clearly in hindsight, it was all happening for him.
Oh, for sure.
And enabled him to kind of become, who he needed to become. And for me, those negative moments and referencing those And I guess it is envy. And I look back in some of my personal life around actions I've taken, and they have been out of pure envy. That's what's, driven me in quite a few things when I look back. And I think Jordan, now knowing what you've pre-laid, Michael, the foundation there, he's got a lot of envy there. And I wouldn't have taken that out of it literally half an hour ago before I watched it, but now I would. But for the most part, just that sheer of like, this was a negative moment, but I'm going to work through it. Thanks for the people who did this shit stuff, not shit stuff, but these...
Gave them the opportunities.
Yeah. These, at
they
the
are
moment,
all
would have
opportunities.
perceived negative, like get it being cut or like no or whatever. But he's clearly a man of competition. Like I liked when he was on the when he talks about when he was on the baseball field and I forget the name of the guy that he referenced, and he comes up to you and goes, "Oh, it's a shame you don't play anymore. I see you in shorts. I'm going to guard the hell out of you, and you ain't going to do shit." And then he shares how a few years later or whenever it was they were facing off, and and I guess that's where Mike, like, there's no humility there of just like he had plenty.
That was Byron Russell
Was it
from Utah,
and he had plenty of opportunities.
And he should never have gone back to basketball. He should never have gone back. He should have had the humility just to stop where he was. And
Let's not open a can of worms on that one.
Mate, come on now.
Question. Do you think...
He should never have left the game, more importantly. He would have had 7 championships.
Exactly.
We wouldn't be having this conversation.
Exactly, yeah.
Do you think he... What's the right way to word this? Do you think he would be... He would have had the ability to show humility through those times, or is it only upon reflection?
I think to achieve what he's achieved, I would like to have thought, and I don't see how he can do it any other way. He would be showing humility in the moment to learn the lessons, to use it as fuel. Because like I said, I keep saying it. I don't believe you can learn without being humble. Because if you're not humble, you think you know it all.
Because he references the point of doing what the team needed. So if the team needed him to teach, he would do that. If the team needed him to score, he'd do that.
Yeah.
So I think that's where he shows the humility to learn on the fly and
do his job in the moment.
It's like to win. I'll do anything to win.
And he's a team owner now.
Whatever's
He's a team owner now.
required.
So it'd be interesting to ask him conversationally, what's your opinion now of organisations versus players in relation to who wins a championship? Because I agree with you, Trav. I think they're two halves of a whole.
But he's also, did you say he was a team motivator? Is that what you were saying?
Jordan?
Yeah.
No, I've never said that.
No, sorry, I thought that's what you just said. I was like, hang on.
he's a team owner.
Oh, team
owner, yeah.
Yeah, of course. So he's doing the other side of the equation now, which would be a very different experience for him.
Seemingly that same night, David Robinson got his award.
Some great people got inducted on the same night.
Because I was reading a article from somebody who was kind of analysing the Jordan speech plus the guys around him, and they were saying the other speeches around him were like ultra, like full of humility and just kindness, and so there's a real sort of stark difference between the speeches. And what this guy said was actually he misses the Jordan the hero, and he didn't really want to see Jordan as the man. Like he didn't want to see his weaknesses in when he was speaking.
But he cried as he walked up there.
I'm sure he did. He had onions in his pocket.
Interestingly, he basically transcends loyalty in terms of followers, because like even you, Conrad, the humility for you to bring Jordan
for sure, 100%. I hated the guy who played the game. He took the championship away from LA. That was the man, right? He took it from Magic. Now Magic's my boy, but he took it from Magic and left him fucking bare butt naked, and I hated that series. Hey, we haven't heard from Marco.
Hey. What about Marco? He's just... No, not in that respect. I was going to say, Marco's just like pushed against the wall with all this ego that's just firing from everywhere. Just wondering, do I bother speaking?
I'll get the first point out of the way quickly because it's like, I don't think there's much discussion around it. But did anyone else notice how intensely focused his mother was every time the camera cut?
No, I didn't.
to.
Yeah,
I mean, I didn't notice her.
And that was, I don't know, for some reason, that was the biggest thing that I took away from the whole thing, was just like
His
how
mum.
insanely focused she was and proud, and how much like because there was a lot of love and humility around that. Maybe juxtaposed against what, in my opinion, was a fairly. I don't think it was a humble.
Okay.
Display at all.
I think so.
But
I think his mum was a massive driver of him, like, and the business and everything as well. So, which is probably why the intensity comes.
Yeah. So that was that. I think what I was watching and getting from it was just someone that used chips on his shoulder to become the greatest of all time, and then trying to figure out how do you balance using those chips on your shoulder as fuel against what you want. And Gary Vee talks about it a lot, and I think there was a bit of content that came out recently from him, which was, yeah, okay, it's good to have a chip on your shoulder and want to kind of do it to stick it in other people's faces, but first and foremost, you've got to want to do it for yourself. And
but did you get that from him?
From Jordan?
Yeah.
No, now that I'm saying that, I can't really remember when he was like, look, this is really what I wanted. He you go to the example of his dorm roommate, and then that story about on the baseball, and then, proving the coach wrong. And it was all of very externally driven speech, which is fine. Like, just can't take anything away from it, because look at what he achieved.
What he was talking about was, the externals were the fuel for his fire, in saying that he had the fire.
Yeah.
And the rest of those opportunities just fueled him more.
Yeah.
So I guess that's what I'll bring it back to. How I saw it and what I know of the Jordan story is that he was a very driven person right from a very young age. And he was a very talented person across a lot of sports, including NFL. And baseball. I think baseball was his first passion.
And golf as well.
Yeah, he's a heck of a golfer.
Yeah, and he just used his self-awareness on how much competition drives him to link it to the end spot that he wants to be at.
Does humility not play a part in the awareness game?
Yeah. Look, I don't think you can get to where he got to without being humble. But I think you'd have to look at different things from his career, different speeches, different whatever, to actually see great examples of his humility. I think you have to read in between the lines a lot to understand.
Okay. Yeah, well, maybe I'm projecting that then.
Yeah, because I really don't think that speech was much about humility. But when you understand, not that I understand how to achieve something like that, but what I'm saying is, when you hear all the things that he did, and then you go to the next level and go, well, actually, in order to use the fact that you get cut as a motivator, you have to be humble.
Yeah, you got to go back and do the work.
Then humility comes through. But it's not served on a plate.
And that's what I would agree. That's where there was like elements, but you had to really read through and I guess have a level of understanding of that. I think for most people it was a very ego, like fuck you, chip on the shoulder.
Yeah, because the commentary around it, and I will say to you, the commentary around it was very decisive very divided. Some people did go down that path of it was a very bullshitty fucking speech. I never saw it as that.
Yeah, I think it comes back to your level of awareness around, like I said, the things happening for you and how you use them fuel even your acknowledgement of envy. Because a lot of people, if their connotation with envy is negative, they would see that speech as highly negative.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Right?
Good point.
Yeah, true.
That's interesting, right? Because at the moment, I consider myself, I think I'm in a, relative to where I normally am, I feel like I'm in a negative space.
Yeah.
I didn't see the speech as negative.
Okay.
No, I didn't see it as...
if you Google it, some people will project a very negative...
I was just trying to reference it back to what we were talking about. I don't see it as negative, but... I guess you could see it as negative if someone was like, that was a very ego-driven, speech, as opposed to inspiring,
And it's easy for people. It's easy to take somebody down that's that high up. Proper Jordan's at the pinnacle, so to try and bring somebody like that down a little bit is...
And he still is. He's still, from what I can understand, profited from the game and post-game more than any other player ever has in the history of the NBA. And may well be sports in general in the States anyway.
Oh, he's worth
billions.
Yeah.
Billions. And
There's other factors in there for that as well. I mean, like being the early days of shoes and
there's everything that plays to it. I'm not saying he's just done it out of basketball.
Does. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, a lot of players don't turn into owners.
No,
well, that's a stretch.
At the level that he has, there hasn't been one.
No, exactly.
So, I mean, interesting piece. I know it tied in with Mike, and it wasn't aimed to, but it was actually in listening to what Mike put on, and then going back and listening to the Hall of Fame speech. I can see how envy's played a massive part in what's fueled him.
I think one of the biggest things, though, is I think where you were going, Matt, to begin with, which was you look at what he's achieved, and he talks through that journey, and it's like a bit of perspective as well. It's like, do the fucking work.
Do the work.
And it's like, you get a little hiccup or you get a little brick wall, you get a little whatever shoved in your face, like it's nothing. You either can dwell on that and step backwards and I'm not good enough, or you can use that as the chip on your shoulder and charge through that to the next level. And I think at the time, the first time I watched is a lot of what I got out of it. It's a good story.
Oh, well, yeah, it's one of the best I've seen.
Awesome. So, gents, I'm sorry I don't have a second bottle.
Well, I got flogged because I didn't have 2 bottles last week. That's why I'm just having a crack at you.
Well, there was a story. I had a reason. There's a reason why I had this one bottle.
I didn't know one cared.
Yeah.
And if anybody brings Japanese whiskey in July, I'm going to kill them.
I'm on drinks next week.
It's all right. You were supposed to bring Japanese whiskey last week, but
well, you weren't here. That's why I didn't bring it.
Okay. Oh, appreciate that. Thank you.
That's not the truth.
I know it's not the truth. It's a long way from the truth. But anyway, actually, I really enjoyed that SSB from Lake House.
I haven't had one for a while.
So Gary and Leanne, thank you very much. I'll be talking to you again soon. And lakehousedenmark.com.au for anyone interested. And
we'd love to host a show from down there.
We would love to go on holiday down to Denmark together as a little family in Travis's hippie bus, according to Conrad.
Can we turn his microphone off?
Yeah, we can. We could actually do it post-production.
If we do get a chance to go down to the lake house, you're not coming.
But look, this one's been a roller coaster. Unfortunately, for the audience, you would really love to see the next 20 minutes of what's going to happen. But one day we'll share more of that with you. But I hope you've enjoyed this one, and we'll see you next time.
Keep the mics rolling, mate. Let him listen.
Shut up, man. See you guys.
Bye. Ciao.
Bye bye.